won one in Ironman, and the crowning moment, motocross title.
Being back home, it's nothing like it, so this one's special to me.
Yeah, welcome to SMX Insider. We are the Jasons, Wygan, and Thomas. It's a wrap on the regular season of SMX in 2024. Pro Motocross is done. Playoffs are coming up next weekend in Charlotte. But we have to pause right here and celebrate a championship for Chase Sexton, which I just keep going back to how bad it was at times in Monster Energy Supercross. And to think that him and this team are standing on top of the mountain right now, that's quite a dynamic tour for them.
Yes, and this moment really felt inevitable leaving Fox Raceway in 2022. I would have guessed it was coming right around the corner. And then after 2023, I wasn't so sure. The emergence of Jett Lawrence going undefeated last season threw all of that into jeopardy, and how quickly things changed, because the very next time out in Pro Motocross, Chase Sexton would win this championship. So I think it's a huge moment in the story of Chase Sexton getting back to the place where I think he was in May of 2023. And now all of the storylines, this, battle of the titans between Sexton and Jett and whoever else wants to insert themselves moving forward, I think we're right back there.
Eventually the arguments fade and you're just a champion. And that's what Sexton can say he is in motocross now. But if you are leaning on the Jett Lawrence, what would have happened if he was their side? You're going to get that question answered real quick. He will be back for the playoffs starting in Charlotte. And he was back with us this weekend. We actually caught up with him during the race day at Ironman to get his prospects on his comeback. So here's our big interview with none other than Jett Lawrence. Hey, this is awesome. Get a chance to jump in on a Zoom call here with Jett Lawrence, who I guess my main question is this. First of all, everybody wants to know, we saw you back on the bike last week. Are you riding? How's it feeling? What's the progress here?
Yeah, it's been awesome being back on the bike. We had to start on the road track for a few days, and then went onto the outdoor track. I was feeling amazing on the road track. Thought I was just back to normal. Went on the outdoor track, and I didn't realize how hard dirt bikes actually are. So, no, we're getting there. We're just trying to get the balance and just trying to take our time. My head and my eye speed is kind of two different levels right now. I'm thinking of what I need to do, and then my eyes and everything's coming fast. I'm trying to go too fast for what I am right now, but it's fun. I'm just so glad to be back on the bike and have a regular schedule again. So while waking up and kind of doing training and that stuff, and then just having so much free time, knowing my day's full of stuff. So it's been nice to be back on the bike and riding this new 25 Honda. It's been awesome. Honda's been doing good on it. And I'm going to do some testing next week on it. And hopefully come into SMX going crazy.
What's interesting is, yes, your schedule has to be based on SMX. When you talk to the surgeon, doctors, physical therapists and all that, did they say that's a reasonable timeline? Or is this a bit of a rush just because of the racing schedule?
Would I like more time for SMX? Of course I would. Everyone wants more time. But, we got dealt with the 6 weeks, and thankfully after the 6 weeks, I was able to be back on the bike. And surprisingly, it wasn't painful at all. We did a lot of therapy during those 2 weeks, spent a lot of time out in California with Dr. G, and just kind of working it, getting a lot of PT done on it, and getting that full range of movement back. And it's kind of cut the healing down a lot. So coming back on the bike, it wasn't as painful. And we got how many more weeks? 2 weeks, I think, until SMX. So, this week was my first week back on an outdoor track. So we're looking forward to it. Makes it exciting for me. Gives it a good challenge. Hopefully I'm back to a little bit more like myself just before SMX, so I can be a little bit more calm. But I'm just back to get out there, back to getting that adrenaline, those nerves on race day. I miss it. I just kind of realized how much of an adrenaline junkie I am. So I'm looking forward to it.
I ask riders this all the time when they're out injured. Most of them, guys at your level who their goal is to win the title, they don't want to watch. They don't want to go through the pain of a title that maybe I could have won, I can't compete for. So what was it like for you this summer? Did you watch or did you just tune out?
If I didn't have my brother and Chance racing, I probably wouldn't have tuned in. But because of those guys, I watched. And I'm pretty sure after every time I watched, even if I did training before, I went and did more training after, because it just would get me so motivated and so pissed off that I would have to go do more training after, because I just had to get the anger out almost of missing out. Because, this is a silly mistake on my behalf, and it's cost me a lot of money, a lot of wins, a lot of fun races. And yeah, it sucks, that's what we live for. So yeah, a lot of times I would watch the race and then go do more training after, because I was just pissed.
Hey, as far as having Hunter in the hunt, did you become a bit of a pseudo coach a little bit? If you were watching the races, would you then download with him Sunday, Monday, or go to the track with him during the week?
Sadly, I would have loved to do that, but a lot of the time I was in California just getting my thumb therapy. I got to come back for the week of testing and got to kind of put some 2 cents in, but Hunter already kind of knows what he needs to do, and he's already there's not a lot I can give to him, any extra is going to make him go immense faster, so he's it's just going to take some more time getting that extra speed. Chase has that bit of extra speed right now, but I think this new bike will help it a lot. With the 24, we were struggling a lot of confidence and stuff like that, especially myself too. We're just trying to commit to some things. I think I had a little bit more of a dumber brain, so I just kind of go with it and just try to adapt, where Hunter's more methodical with it. So I think this new bike helps a lot. As you can see, as soon as we hopped on it, I ended up getting a win at Unadilla, rode unbelievable there, battled with Chase. So I think there's more race he spends on that bike, the better and better he'll go. So it's good to see as a brother, but it's going to make my life hell as well, going back on the bike. But no, I'm glad I get to chase him now. I've been kind of leading one the past year or so. So going back riding again, I was complaining all this week. I'm like, gosh damn, he just rides away from me. What am I doing wrong? I feel like I'm going fast. So no, I'm excited for him. I didn't give him too much tips, so I got to keep some in the back pocket maybe. But no, he rides unbelievably well. So I'm just sure once he gets a good flow, get a nice setting, he'll do good.
Yeah, that's my last thing for you. You are going to get as close to 100% as you can, but I'm sure you're not going to know until we get to Charlotte, maybe when you're in the race, how good you're really going to feel. But last year, Charlotte was a bit of a struggle for you also. The standard that you set is very high. We expect you to win and battle up front every time you line up. Is there a part of you that is like, this might be a building process, at least round one of SMX, like last year?
I haven't thought it yet. My thinking process, I think, is a little different from most. I always try and set my standard up high. I've been telling my dad and that staff that I want to come back and I want to win every single SMX. Is that going to happen? If the stars align, maybe. But Chase is looking really good, and I could lose a lot. I may even lose the SMX, but how I'm already going to lose at SMX if I come in already thinking that, so I got to make sure I think confidently, and I've been working hard. I feel strong and fit. We just got to get the bike side there again, and hopefully we'll be good.
All right, well, thanks for jumping in with us, and you don't have to be upset not being at the races anymore, because the next race, we'll just have you on the bike, right?
Exactly. I'm finally going to be on the bike at one of the races, I was complaining about the flying. I didn't like the flying each weekend and all that stuff, and all the delayed flights. Now I miss it a bit, Once you take some time away from it, then you miss it. So no, I'm excited to come back and see the fans and be with the team again on the weekends, and just kind of get the elbows banging a bit, and get that adrenaline rush again. Gosh, I miss it. I've been racing like grandmas in my cars on the freeway. They look at me, they blinked at me the right, they want to race, so I start racing them. So I'm ready to be back.
All right, that's going to be awesome to have you. Great stuff in the interview, too. So thanks for the time. See you in Charlotte.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, it's going to be so exciting to have all these players back, not just Jett Lawrence, but Cooper Webb, Eli Tomac on the mend. It's going to be awesome when the playoffs begin. You can watch them September 7th, 14th, and 21st. Those are the 3 playoff events. I just want to mention the first 2 are day races. They will start with our pre-race shows at 2:30 Eastern. That's from Charlotte and Fort Worth. And then the finale will start at 9:30 Eastern time. That is a night race from Las Vegas. But also of note that these are 2-day format events. So JT, if fans want to come on Friday, you'll get to watch a live press conference in person. You get to watch the riders practice in person. And I think we're most pumped on the Friday night show where we're going to take the best podcasts around, including this show, and we'll all be on stage together bench racing.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the most fun for us. But for the fans, to get to be able to watch riders on Friday, like that's double the action. And that really just doesn't happen anywhere else other than these SMX playoffs. So come hang out on Friday. I think they're going to continue to add activities throughout the years. And I think this is just the beginning. Camping experience over the weekend and a lot more happening than a normal race.
30-second board. These are the hot topics, and we will go back to where we were at the beginning of this show. So Jett Lawrence dominates last year, gets hurt this year. Chase Sexton wins the title. It begs the question, what if Jett Lawrence had been there? I will just defer to my broadcast colleague, James Stewart, who just says maybe Jett would have won the title, but it wouldn't have been a dominant, perfect season over Chase Sexton like it was last year. So that's James' take, and that certainly seems reasonable. What do you think, JT?
Well, the way he was in the fight, even injured, remember that big crash we're seeing there from Hangtown, that boded pretty well because you had to assume he was going to get a little bit better down the stretch and that shoulder was going to become a little bit more racy than it was. And then the thumb injury kind of took him out of contention altogether. But it's hard to ignore Chase Sexton's improvement down the stretch too. Now, the real question is, did one cause the other? Did Jett Lawrence's exit cause the confidence rise in Chase Sexton, which brought on all the results that we saw down the stretch? That's an unanswerable question, and we could argue for days about it. But what we do know is that Chase Sexton did step up. When the opportunity arose, Sexton grabbed it with both hands and took off with it. Look at the string of wins he put together, the motos, and the way he went about it. That second moto sprint away from the field at Unadilla, to me, spoke volumes about where he is mentally, and they're starting to figure that motorcycle out. The real question is, can he take that momentum back into the confines of an SMX type track and have that same form? We'll figure that out when we get to Charlotte, but this was a huge moment in the story of Chase Sexton at Ironman, picking up his first 450 Pro Motocross Championship.
And what this all leads to, well, look at the math. SMX, when we combine points from motocross and supercross together, Sexton is the #1 seed for the second year in a row, but Jett Lawrence gets pushed all the way back to 6th. He will start the playoffs 9 points back of Sexton. And then look at these other contenders. Eli Tomac will start with 11 points. He's 14 points behind Sexton. Roxon, great last year, but he only has 9 points at the reset. So these guys, we're pumped to have them back. We don't know exactly what condition they'll be in, but they're really going to have to rally. And that's going to make this that much more interesting because Sexton does get a bonus for a solid season.
Yeah, and we don't know what it's going to look like. Each race is going to be its own story, but we do know some riders will start a little bit further behind. So not only do they have to beat the riders they're facing, they're going to have to be significantly better. And for Jett Lawrence to defend that title, he's got to make up points on a rider who has the momentum and is coming in 100%. So it is a very unique setup this year. We're going to just have to wait and see how those points all play out. And don't forget, we have an escalating point system. Single points at the first round, double points at the second round, and the finale in Las Vegas will be triple points. So everything we think we know, leaving the Dallas-Fort Worth area and going to Las Vegas, can very easily get flipped on his head with triple points on the offer.
Yeah, but right now, everything's coming up big for the Red Bull KTM group. And look at what happened over the weekend. It's the first time, believe it or not, in 10 years that KTM won both classes in motocross in the same day, with Tom Vial's victory and then Sexton winning. And then, JT, it was just like you had an assembly line going at the podium, one award after another for KTM postseason.
Yeah, this was the summer of orange. Great job from them. And you look at the day that they had, Chase Sexton was clearly the story, but there was this undertone of whether or not Tom Vial could get that victory because so many people had him pegged as a championship favorite. He won the Monster Energy Supercross Championship, and he's going into something he should be better at by all intents and purposes, motocross. But it took until this last round for him to get that overall win. The first moto was phenomenal. I think that's the type of form everybody's been looking for from him. The second moto was kind of more the same. He drifted back. He wasn't able to hold pace with the front runners. Now, he did get the overall win. That is the big picture. But as soon as we got answers in the first moto, I thought the second moto kind of brought more questions. So we'll see what he does with that as we transition to the SMX playoffs. But just an interesting summer all around for Tom Vial.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think you started the year saying Haiden Deegan thinks he's the alpha of that class, and I don't think it ends any differently, no matter how many other wins everyone else was able to get. And then it transitions to the riders who used to battle Deegan in the 250s. And this is probably part of the reason he feels so confident. He doesn't have to deal with Justin Cooper or Hunter Lawrence anymore. And you just think back years earlier in the career of both of these riders. Hunter Lawrence was good, in MXGP as a young prospect, pretty good when he came over to America in the 250 class. Justin Cooper was not really known much as an amateur. It's pretty wild. JT, we've seen great 250 riders struggle and not get anywhere in a 450 class. These two have really cemented themselves as the future.
Yeah, I thought both of them did a great job of proving their worth amongst their competitors. And that's always the question. Hunter Lawrence far exceeded all expectations, in my opinion. But even for Justin Cooper, I think getting in there and showing that you belong on factory equipment amongst the likes of the Jason Andersons and whoever else you're going to be competing for contracts with, that is the burden. That is what you're trying to accomplish. And I think both of them, whoever the decision makers are on their teams, have to look at their situations and say, yeah, they deserve to be here. We're going to keep them around. And that in and of itself is a win. The job won't get easier, though, because there are people coming back. We saw Eli Tomac come back, but that's just where it's going to start. We're going to get more of Cooper Webb. We're going to get more of Ken Roxon on the 450. And, oh, yeah, that Jett Lawrence guy is coming back to I think he's going to try to come back and take what's his. So we'll see how that all plays out for guys like Hunter and Justin Cooper. Getting in that fight and proving that they belong is going to be much more difficult when we have a full field for those SMX playoff rounds.
Yeah, and that's very unpredictable. Like you said last week, the algebra is different with riders coming back earlier. Roxon, we had a lot of hype over him jumping into the 250 class. You could tell physically he still wasn't quite ready as he's trying to come back from injury. And that's really the question. A, those injured riders, how quickly they get to 100%. And the guys that raced all year, how much they have left in the tank. So let's get some expert analysis here. And now time for our SMX medical update. We bring on Dr. Joe McGinley of the McGinley Clinic. Now, Joe, normally we're talking injury recovery, but at the end of 28 rounds, Supercross and Motocross together, you're saying a lot of riders are just recovering in general, just energy levels in general. So what can they do with the weekend off that they have?
Yeah, I'm tired just watching the races this whole season. These guys have been out there competing at the highest level, Supercross, Motocross. It takes your toll. It takes a toll on the body. They've been traveling. They've been exposed to multiple different environments. Their sleep schedule's off. So this week is going to be really key to rest and recovery. Everyone's beat up. Everyone's dealing with issues. This week's going to be golden for that. They'll be working with nutritionists, making sure their health's on key, and making sure they're ready to go when that SMX series starts.
So I have a question with that, and this is one that I would have personally loved to know when I was racing. Are there certain things you can look for in a blood test or markers that would kind of tell you that, hey, you're overtrained, you really need to take a break? Or is that just something that riders have to depend on feel?
Actually, both, JT. So, there's full blood panels now. Functional medicine's up and coming area of medicine. It's a whole certified area of medicine where they look at these particular issues. They run full blood panels. Sometimes there's hundreds of things on that blood panel that they're looking for. They're looking at vitamin levels. They're looking at electrolyte levels. They're looking for, signs of any infections. And that's going to be key to sort of guide that treatment, what they're going to need to refuel their body. That's where nutritionists come in. So once you get those blood results, you're working with that functional medicine doc. A nutritionist can work side by side and make sure that there's a program to make sure that you're healthy, your body's fueled, ready to go, and then all of those issues have been resolved.
All right. Well, time's running out. We'll get you back next week with another update on the injury reports for these riders as we get ready for the playoffs. Thanks, Dr. Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, and back to the 30-second board we go. One rider who didn't face the injury troubles and appears to have no trouble recuperating, the indefatigable Haiden Deegan, second moto at Ironman. He just reestablished himself. Obviously, we know what he does on the racetrack. Off the racetrack, very polarizing. We live in polarizing times. Deegan is the man for the moment, JT. I don't go to a race ever where someone doesn't say, man, what do you think of Deegan? And then they voice their opinion. They either love the brashness on the podium or they hate it. I feel like in our role to just step back and look at it, the fact that people are talking this much, that's probably a win.
Has there ever been a bigger contrast of what we know we're going to get on the racetrack? This guy that has so much grit and determination and fights back from any sort of adversity he faces versus the unpredictability of what we're going to get that comes out of his mouth, what he does on the podium. He cracked an egg over his mechanic's head while he won Mechanic of the Year this past weekend, right? It is always a roller coaster ride, but I think the big picture and what we really look forward to with Haiden Deegan is he is developing into this rider that I think is going to be able to take on all comers. And it's not somewhere I thought we were going to be with Haiden Deegan. He looks ready to take the next step. He's got some learning to do. He's still only 18 years old. But when you think about what you extrapolate that out into what that will be long term, some bright days ahead for the number 38. Now, a team that has had anything but predictability is Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki. Now, we were on race 300 win watch all year, going back to Supercross, and then Ty Masterpool got the job done, and nobody could believe it. We all felt like it was going to be Levi Kitchen, and then I think Levi answered the bell. He won 3 races in quick succession after that, and it's just been the roller coaster ride that this team has been through. You look at Austin Faulkner, the ups and downs that he has suffered through, leading the points, then exiting the series. I don't know that you could ever have more of the highs and lows than what Mitch Payton, I want to say, for the last few years has kind of gone through.
Let's go to the 250 points here. Deegan is on top. I don't think that's any surprise. It's actually been an interesting battle between Kitchen and Vial to be second ranked. In the end, it will be Kitchen for the playoffs, ranked second. Vial actually beat him in motocross. And a couple other guys to note here. Consistency pays off. Some of these names, you're probably not thinking that outstanding seasons. I see Jordan Smith 6, JT. Remember Jordan Smith at SMX last year?
I do. I had to actually double check and make sure that my headset was working because somebody said that Jordan Smith was in line to win the SMX World Championship when we were sitting there in Los Angeles last year. So that is the craziness that these playoffs bring, the point system that our man with the SMX Facts, Clinton Fowler, helped put together. It is sheer chaos. And this is the closest battle going in that Haiden Deegan's been in months. 3 points? Are you kidding me? He's been a moto win ahead for months going on in. So everything resets. A guy like Levi Kitchen, who's had tons of momentum, he can realistically put himself back into a championship fight. And a guy like RJ Hampshire, who was your 250 West Monster Energy Supercross champion, guess what he's thinking about doing? He's thinking about getting back and getting into that championship fight. He just got a podium in his second race back. So everything is in front of these guys. I can't wait to watch it.
He said he would have liked to have spent that summer in the danger zone. Hampshire is not scared. We know that. So, yeah, wild cards, 250 SMX, we are here for it. And then the 450 class, it's a little different. You're getting these journeyman privateer types who see the money that's on the line and names that you would have never thought. It's factory guys we're talking about. Hampshire, Smith in 250s. How about guys like Harry Koulas in the 450 class, who was going to race a few Pro Motocross races and then kept racing more and more and more. Then he sold a bike at Washougal, got a new one at Unadilla, and he was good in every moto he was in, JT, this year, and he's solidly into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think he is the 2024 poster boy for do whatever it takes to find your way into these playoffs, and let's see what happens. The lengths, the extraordinary lengths that these riders are going to make it happen so they can guarantee themselves a spot in Charlotte, I think is one of the biggest stories that the development of the playoffs have brought about. It's completely changed the landscape for how riders view their summer. And I think Harry Koulas is the top name of that list.
Yeah, and then to those battles in the veteran 450 division, we added more intrigue with the Scouting Moto Combine making a return at Ironman. And Cole Davies wins. Cole Davies, you fans are probably familiar with, the New Zealand kid, now with Monster Yamaha Star Racing. Outstanding during the SX Futures. He goes 2-1 to win the Combine overall. But here's what surprised me. A rider I had never heard of dominated the first moto. An Australian named Caden Maneri, 17 years old, got fourth in Moto 2. So he ends up on the overall podium. That's what the Scouting Combine's here to do. Riders you've never heard of getting on the radar. So an Australian and a New Zealander are really the standouts. And then there was one other standout moment, JT, on Saturday.
Yeah, for Liam Aloff, who is the son of my former teammate, Joe Aloff. Now, they got one parade lap on Saturday. This wasn't a race. They're just go out there and get recognition from the fans. Well, Liam decided to go ahead and jump the biggest jump on the track, got caught out by a freshly watered racetrack, and oh wow, did he pay the price stepping over the front. And I saw this live, and it almost ruined my afternoon because I was so worried about my friend's son in this crash, but thankfully he got up and all is well. But to your point about this combine, I think the benefits are twofold. One, continued development for these young superstars to be, and also provide a stage for those that we don't know about to step up. And Caden Minier going out and winning that first moto, he did exactly that. So for me, whether it's Supercross Futures, whether it's the Scouting Moto Combine, this has been a win on all fronts, and the future is going to be the benefit of that.
I think we're going to get Minier back, by the way, for the World All-Stars race at Las Vegas. So keep an eye on that rider when we get to the SMX World Championship. And we know he'll be keeping an eye on him. The crowds, man. Supercross, crowds are up. The podiums, what was that like in Pro Motocross? The crowds have been huge this year. It's been great.
It is anarchy down there in all of the best ways, and you can really tell who the crowd favorites are, right? And some of these are still ongoing developments, right? These riders are finding their personalities and really engaging with the fans, but it is so great to see all of these people coming out. And truly, thank you to everyone who's down there and making noise and really engaging, because it changes the day. You see Chase Sexton there spraying champagne. Imagine the memories that are being made between Sexton and these fans on championship day. It's just an experience you simply cannot get in any other sport. And speaking of new experiences, Drew Adams made his long-awaited debut, and he's been racing a lot. He was racing Supercross Futures, where he dominated several rounds. He went up to Canada earlier rounds to get some practice in, but this was the long-awaited Pro Motocross debut. And the results don't jump off the page. I think they're very similar to rookies we've seen in the past, but I think his speed, the way he was able to qualify within the top 10, and also he ran with those guys. He was battling the likes of Ken Roxon and all the stars that we know. I think it bodes very well for where he will end up. Once he gets a little bit more comfortable, he gets some experience. I think this kid's the real deal, Weege.
15-11 moto scores don't sound great, but we had a long discussion with our statistician, Clinton. I think the outstanding rookie debuts that most people think about are ones that start at the beginning of the year. We saw many riders, they don't race Supercross. They're just practicing motocross for 6 months. We get to round one of Pro Motocross, and they catch the riders who had been racing Supercross on the back foot. Those are the Eli Tomac winning his very first race, or Barsha being up front. I think the best moto Max Volan ever had in his life was his pro debut. To start at the end of the year is a completely different situation, and that's what Adams was in. So yeah, 12th overall. Obviously, he probably wanted more, but I don't think it's as bad as you would think if you compare it to other riders that start at the end of the season when the veteran's been racing all year. Whoa, hold on here. We got some breaking news. We want to thank Mike Pelletier from the AMA for jumping on with us, because the decision has been made for Team USA at the Motocross the Nation. So we just whipped this together. And you have 3 names, 3 riders that you can tell us right now. Who are they?
I do, Jason. It's exciting. So Team USA this year, competing in England, is going to be Chase Sexton on the MXGP class, Aaron Plessinger in the Open class, and Chance Hymas is going to do our MX2 for us.
So, Mike, this news we've been waiting on for quite a while, and I have heard every scenario under the sun. Without giving too much away, can you just give us some context as how do you get to this landing spot with all of these names, possible names anyway, involved?
Yeah, that's a good question. And there's a process involved. And, with SMX coming up, we kind of wait to see through the outdoor season. So this isn't out of the ordinary. You used to see the announcement at Unadilla. But then if you think back, the Motocross Nations was beginning of September before there was SMX. So we like to get as much racing as we can in, see where everybody's standing, talk to the riders, talk to the team, see where the interest is, and take it from there. And we got a great team this year, and I'm really excited.
Now, look, Mike, when we see those 3 names on the team, you're obviously picking the 2 top-ranked Americans in 450 motocross points, Sexton and Plessinger. That's easy. Obviously, Haiden Deegan, the 250 champ, not being on the team is going to raise some eyebrows. So what is the situation there where it ends up with Chance Hymas on the team?
Of course, we had a lot of conversation with Haiden, as everybody would probably expect. Over those conversations, it was decided for him not to partake on his end. So we respect that decision, and then we start talking to other riders, and Chance had his hand up and raised the whole time, and I think we made a great selection, and we'll move forward into England with these 3.
Okay. All right. We look forward to SMX. I know you got some work to do there as well, and you're very busy today. So thanks for giving us a few minutes here, Mike. All right, time for SMX Facts. Let's bring in Clinton Fowler. We're going to recap the Pro Motocross Championship. So what numbers stick out to you now that we've completed 22 motos, Clinton?
Well, Weege, the big thing is with those 22 motos done, the points reset. So we get to go into the SMX World Championship Finals with the points back to just the seeding. So it's going to be fun to watch those races. But looking back, there's really 2 or 3 things that stick out for me. One is beginning of the season, the other is ending the season. The beginning of the season, we saw Jett Lawrence extend his moto win streak from 22 to 24 motos, tied James Stewart for the 3rd longest moto streak. Pretty impressive. Unfortunately for Jett Lawrence, that ended at the first moto at Hangtown in the 2nd round, but nonetheless an impressive feat. Then to finish the season, we got Chase Sexton, who won 6 overalls in a row. He's one of 7 riders to ever do that. Yet again, an impressive streak, something that we just don't see happen that often. Even Eli Tomac, who we talk about a lot, had never done that in his career. So impressive way for Chase Sexton to finish. And I'd be remiss, JT, if I didn't mention Aaron Plessinger. While he finished 3rd in the championship again, it's the 2nd year in a row, it really felt like a breakout season. He had 11 moto podiums versus just 5 last year. Maybe the coolest part, or the most depressing for AP, is 5 of those 11 moto podiums, he was 2nd to his teammate Chase Sexton. So impressive season for AP. JT, what do you think of those 3?
Yeah, Jett Lawrence, we know what he is and what he'll likely be once again. He is his own world and persona, that kid. I think Chase Sexton winning 6 overalls in a row, like, he's back. He is truly back. Now, the question is, can he beat Jett Lawrence? We don't know. But Chase Sexton being back to the ultra-confident guy that can go win any race on earth, that gentleman has returned. And then for AP, let's go back to Detroit in 2023 and that emotional interview he gave where he almost won his first ever Monster Energy Supercross race. To me, that was the breakout. We're seeing continuation. You talk about him having the red plate in the early rounds of Monster Energy Supercross, and then his resurgence in this Pro Motocross Championship, where down the stretch, he was a week in and week out podium guy. I think he is just making good on the promise that he showed us a year and a half ago. So 3 very different stories, but all of them have their reasons for optimism moving forward.
Okay, Clinton, let's switch 250s. What numbers jump out there?
We got to start with Haiden Deegan. And kids, this is the way to a championship. Basically dominate every stats category. It didn't matter if he got a good start, a bad start. Didn't matter if he crashed or if he had the speed. He ended up winning the championship even when he made those mistakes. He had a series leading 6 hole shots. He was 3rd best at the white line, so he had the starts dialed in. He was 6th he was fastest in overall in 6 of the 11 rounds, so he had the speed to beat his competition. Hence why when he made mistakes at Red Bud in the 2nd moto and crashed, and when he made mistakes in the first turn at Spring Creek in the 2nd moto, he still ended up doing really well. And amazingly, guys, JT, this one really sticks out for me. He was not outside of the top 10 or didn't really have a bad moto until after he clinched the title. He went 10th in the 2nd moto at Budds Creek and 11th in the 1st moto at Ironman, but obviously he was already done at that point, JT.
Yeah, and for any champion, there will be a laundry list of tests that you simply have to pass. And I think Haiden Deegan did exactly that. He won from the front. He won from the back. When things were going terribly wrong, he found a way to salvage them and still get solid points. That's how you wrap up the championship with a weekend to go. It's never letting the bad days be too damaging.
All right, great data, Clinton. You're going to have some more on SMX when we get you back next week?
Yeah, we're definitely going to take a look at SMX and in particular the points reset and where does everybody seed heading on into those rounds.
All right, it's only the 2nd year of this. If you're a little confused, we will explain everything to you next week. Okay, before we wrap this show up, just a quick reminder, when we return to racing, that'll be September 7th, ZMAX Dragway at Charlotte. The pre-race show begins at 2:30 Eastern. Racing begins at 3. Same time schedule for round 2 of the playoffs at Fort Worth and Texas Motor Speedway. And then 9:30 p.m. will be the pre-race show, 10 p.m. Eastern, racing for the World Championship finale, September 21st. So that's how to watch that. But we also encourage you to watch on Friday. So we just announced this right before Ironman, JT. You and I in this show will do this live for the fans Friday at these races. We're bringing in Jace from Gypsy Tales, Ricky Carmichael, James Stewart, and their podcasts, and our friend Steve Mathis. We will all be on stage together. Should be pretty epic to have this group together, and we'll take questions from the fans.
Yeah, Godspeed to us staying on the timetable that we have with that many different people with contrasting opinions from around the world. But for the fan, what an incredible opportunity to hear from all those people, the best in the podcast world, and two of the biggest legends we've ever seen in the sport of SMX. So incredible opportunity. I think it's going to be let's hope it's not a once in a lifetime thing. Let's just hope it's the first of an every year type thing.
Yep, that'll be Friday evenings at the track at all 3 rounds. So make sure you come for the 2-day ticket, and we'll see you next weekend at ZMAX Dragway.